Thanks so much. We've had a lot of talk in the last few rounds about restrictions on the ability of a consumer, a purchaser of a ticket, being able to sell it to someone else. A lot of people seem to think that's somehow a solution. I think it's a nightmare dressed like a daydream. I don't think we ought to go there. There are a lot of complaints about doing this. Look, no one is particularly fond of scalpers, generally speaking, but this isn't about scalpers. This is about the purchasers of the tickets themselves. They may have perfectly legitimate reasons, whether it's a change of plans or otherwise, to resell tickets that they've already purchased. In a number of states, including New York, Illinois, and my home state of Utah, we have laws that restrict these sorts of things. In Utah specifically, the Ticket Transferability Act in place in my state requires that at least 90% of tickets for an event be transferable. And so, Mr. Nuzzo, we'll start with you on this one. Do you think federal policymakers ought to take a similar approach with this, or is this particular issue best left to the states?
Thank you, Senator. And I would reiterate the comment I made earlier about there being a nexus with interstate commerce. In any state, you are going to have folks from out of state purchasing tickets to an in-state concert event, sports stadium. So there is a role for the Congress to play in this.
Is it one that needs to be played? I mean, you're not suggesting that there would be a dormant commerce. Wouldn't be a dormant commerce problem with the states doing it?
No, I do not. But I do recognize the efficiencies by a federal solution as opposed to a 50-state patchwork in this realm.
Now, that makes sense. Ms. Bradish, the most common justification that we hear when this sort of thing comes up about ticket transferability is that artists want it. And now the artists, as the argument goes, want to stop scalpers and help their friends, help their followers, their biggest fans. But why should artists be able to tell their fans what to do with a ticket purchased from the venue? And does that really sound like something that you would do in defense of the very same people you want to buy your ticket, is tell them if you've got a change of plans, you're out of luck? Or does it sound more like Ticketmaster and certain other actors, including in some cases, artists, are simply sharing monopoly rents?
Exactly. And I think what this points out is that when an industry suggests its own cures, we also have to look at the possibility that it has another effect, which is, in this case, perhaps to keep customers within the Ticketmaster ecosystem.
Right. Mr. Gartzinger, sticking to the issue of ticket transferability, it seems to be that impairing transferability might also harm competition and therefore consumers by preventing legitimate secondary ticketing companies from gaining any traction. And the logic there is that if you're stopping legitimate secondary ticketing companies from gaining any traction, you're also forestalling would-be future nascent competitors who could rise up through the marketplace and potentially challenge Ticketmaster. Do you share this concern?
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. I think this industry already lacks competition. Reducing transferability just exacerbates that problem. A related issue is if the incumbent were to allow transferability but only on its own platform, or only allow fulfillment on its own platform. It's a way to force all consumer data and all transaction fees onto that platform.
Right. Now, Mr. Burchell, if I purchase a ticket on Ticketmaster, is that my ticket? And if it's my ticket, isn't that my property to use or dispose of or transfer as I deem fit?
Yeah, Senator, I think this discussion on transferability exists simply because of the volume of industrial scalping that takes place, the harvesting of those tickets that disrupts the relationship between the artist and the fan. And as we submitted, one of the notes was a letter from Garth Brooks, who's well known for being one of the leading advocates of providing a great show and a great value for his fans, who called out very specifically that it's the scalping that takes place that is the origin of the problems that we have, and everything else is a derivative issue.
Well, there are other issues, of course, and that may be his view, but he's not, I don't think he's necessarily considering the Consumer Welfare Standard or the Sherman Act or the Clayton Act when making that statement. So I'm going to ask you this. Will you, on behalf of Ticketmaster, commit right now to offering fair, reasonable, non-discriminatory API access to legitimate secondary ticketing services to facilitate the safe and easy transfer of tickets without limiting customers to the Ticketmaster app? And if not, why not?
Senator, first, we believe that the artist does have the right to set the rules by which ticket transfer takes place in today's environment with the high volume of scalping. Second, with digital tickets, there needs to be the maintenance of a digital right master that is held centrally. And as part of fraud prevention, we're not going to put that out in the wild to enable fraud.
I'd like to get Mr. Gretzinger's response to that and also ask Mr. Gretzinger to just talk about how competition with Ticketmaster has impacted innovation in the ticketing space.
The NFL provides a great counterexample to that, where the NFL has created an ecosystem where ourselves, Ticketmaster, and StubHub all compete. Those open APIs exist, and it works really well for NFL fans. There's no technical reason, there's no master manifest reason that couldn't exist in other venues. It's just a business reason that it doesn't. And I'm sorry, I forgot your other question.
Just tell me how competition with Ticketmaster, how has competition with Ticketmaster impacted innovation in the ticketing space?
I think it's severely stunted it. Like I mentioned earlier, I'd love to have a ton of brilliant, vibrant developers and companies trying to make better solutions, I would love that this bot issue we hadn't been talking about for a decade because so many people had been competing to build a better mousetrap that it didn't exist anymore. And unfortunately, that's not.
So the absence of competition has stunted it to the extent you're able to see some developing semblance of competition. How does or how will or how would that impact innovation in the ticketing space?
Yeah, what makes it really hard for us is, we are trying our darndest to build the absolute best ticketing software on earth and make tickets more accessible to fans, get more people to go to events. We believe we have that. We'll then go to a venue and try to bid competitively, and they make a choice against what is the best technology because they are afraid of losing concerts if they don't choose SeatGeek. And I think while that underlying reality exists, it's going to be very, very hard, if not impossible, to have a fair, vibrant, competitive market.
Thank you. See, my time's expired. Thank you, Madam Chair.